Hello, I'm Chuck Gifford, and I'll be reading you selections from this week's July the 2nd's Nantucket Inquirer Mirror. Our first story today comes from the top of the front page and is headlined, Cocaine Levels in Wastewater Lead DA to Target Island Drug Supply by Dean Geddes. Months after Nantucket's wastewater testing program identified cocaine levels consistently well above the national average, the Cape and Islands District Attorney said that the data has triggered a law enforcement response aimed at Nantucket's cocaine supply. The elevated readings grabbed our attention, Cape and Islands DA Robert Gilliboy said in an interview this week. We noticed it and we started to designate some resources that we have available through the state police, Gilliboy said. We began launching investigations both here on the island as well as off-island to determine who is trying to bring it and who is providing it here. The wastewater data is a population-level sample of sewage, including an overall level of drug use. It does not contain information on an individual level tied to any person, household, or group, town officials have said. Gilliboy did not say it helped the investigators build specific cases, but rather showed that cocaine on the island needed more law enforcement attention. The effort has resulted in recent search warrants and arrests on Nantucket, he said, as well as charges against people on the mainland who law enforcement believes are supplying cocaine headed to the island, although he would not provide specifics, citing policy on not commenting on ongoing cases. We've been successful the past couple of months, both in executing search warrants and making arrests over here on Nantucket, Gilliboy said. But just as importantly, on the other side, on the mainland side, we've been able to identify the sources for the dealers here on Nantucket, and we've been able to charge some folks on the mainland side to interrupt that flow. Excuse me. Gilliboy said investigations are continuing. The town began weekly wastewater testing for cocaine, fentanyl, methamphetamine, opiates, and nicotine last year, using the program that began during the COVID-19 pandemic as a tool to better understand substance use trends on the island. It quickly identified cocaine as the most consistently elevated substance. Over the first 8 months of testing, Nantucket's cocaine markers routinely exceeded national and regional averages. In October and December, some readings reached nearly 3 times the national average. Testing on October 14th showed cocaine levels just under 3,000 nanograms per liter compared to the U.S. average of roughly 1,000 nanograms per liter. Elevated readings were recorded again on December 15th and December 22nd, when concentrations climbed to roughly 2,700 to 2,800 nanograms per liter before tapering off in January and early February. By contrast, other high-risk drugs have consistently tested much lower on Nantucket. Fentanyl levels remain near non-detect for much of the testing period. Methamphetamine, xylazine, and several prescription opioids also tested below national and regional averages. Town officials have repeatedly cautioned that the wastewater data is best used to track trends over time, not to make direct comparisons with other communities or draw conclusions about individual drug use. Health Director Rocco Miramonte said last year the goal of the program was to establish a baseline, watch for movement in the data, and share useful information. The activity is still in its early stages, and additional baseline data will help provide a clearer picture, Miramonte said at the time. For high-risk substances and opioids, a sustained increase over several weeks may be a stronger indicator for intervention. The cocaine data also comes with caveats. The town's online dashboard notes that cocaine and its metabolite usually rise together because the body converts most consumed cocaine into BZE before it leaves the system. When cocaine rises without a comparable increase in BZE, it can indicate that some of the drug entering the wastewater was not metabolized. That can happen when unused drugs are discarded, the town said, or when cocaine is used with alcohol, which can affect how the body breaks it down. Still, Galliboy said that the volume reflected in the wastewater data, particularly during the off-season, raised concerns. It was like, whoa, there's something that we need to address here, he said. So we began to address it. The investigative response has not been limited to Nantucket. Galliboy said that Nantucket police have been a terrific partner, but the efforts also involve state police assigned to his office, other local departments on Cape Cod, off-Cape law enforcement, and the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency. We were able to build essentially a network cross-jurisdictional with the goal of trying to figure out how it is that so much cocaine is getting to Nantucket, he said. And once we make that identification, let's try to figure out how we can interrupt it. The wastewater testing program, which costs the town around $30,000 annually, is run by BioBot Analytics, the same company that has monitored Nantucket's wastewater for COVID-19, flu, and RSV. Samples are collected over a 24-hour period at the Surfside Wastewater Treatment Facility, which receives wastewater from the sewer system as well as septic waste from haulers around the island. Town officials have said that the testing covers most of the island's population, excluding Sconset, which has its own treatment plant. When the drug testing program began, local officials described it primarily as a public health tool. Human Services Director Jericho Millet said last year that it could help the town and its partners see beyond overdose numbers, which only capture the most visible part of the substance use picture. It's a supplementary tool, Millet said at the time. Most of the time you're looking at overdose numbers, which is basically like only looking at the part of the iceberg that's poking into the ship. Galliboy said that the data has now served another purpose, alerting law enforcement to potential supply problem. Because of the volume that has been reported, it grabbed our attention, he said, and we started doing something about it. Our next story, still on the front page, is headlined, Both Men Involved in Downtown Stabbing Facing Criminal Charges by Kay Quigley, July 1st. Both men involved in last week's stabbing on the downtown Broad Street Strip have now been criminally charged. Kamar Downer, the man accused in the stabbing that his attorney has described as self-defense, was arraigned last Wednesday in Nantucket District Court on 2 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. He is set to return to court August 3rd for a pre-trial hearing. Meanwhile, the man that Downer stabbed, accused of starting the altercation that led to Downer pulling his knife, Andre Hamilton, is being charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. He is scheduled to appear in court on the same day as Downer, August 3rd, to be arraigned on those charges. In Nantucket District Court Tuesday, Judge James Sullivan denied a motion to dismiss the case against Downer brought by his attorney, Rob Moriarty. Moriarty argued in his motion that Downer was not brought before the court promptly enough last week. He cited Article 14 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights and a 1993 Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court case, Jenkins v. Chief Justice of the District Court Department, in which the court ruled that individuals arrested without a warrant are constitutionally entitled to a prompt judicial determination of probable cause, generally within 24 to 48 hours. There was potential for Downer to be brought before the court the same day as the incident, Moriarty said, but police did not bring him in. Nantucket police essentially decided they were not going to abide by the Constitution because they think they're above it, Moriarty said at the time. Downer was arrested immediately following the incident on July 23rd, questioned and booked by police and held overnight before being brought into the courtroom in handcuffs last Wednesday morning. The incident occurred at approximately 10:23 a.m. last Tuesday, according to the police report, and Downer was arrested just before 11 a.m. Downer was arraigned just after 11 a.m. the following morning. I understand your frustration because, like you, Mr. Moriarty, we were waiting for the arraignment pretty much the whole day. But we don't have control over what goes on outside the courtroom. And I think, based on my calculations, we are within the 24-hour period, Sullivan said. He also added that based on previous cases he'd read, even in the event of a Jenkins violation, dismissal would be an inappropriate remedy. But I will note your objection to all those things, and I would think it's a good point to take. And that we try to move these things and should move these things as quickly as possible, particularly when we have custody involved, Sullivan said. Sullivan did, however, allow a motion for Downer's bail to be returned and his ankle monitor removed. After his arraignment last week, Downer was placed on $2,500 cash bail, ordered to wear a GPS tracking device, and stay at least 25 yards away from Hamilton and his home. After considering the arguments previously made, and particularly after watching the surveillance video and going through the incident reports, and also the added knowledge that the presumptive victim has now become a defendant in the matter, the court does find that what was depicted in the video was an unprovoked assault on the defendant, Sullivan said in court Tuesday. All of those facts in mind, the court is going to vacate the prior order of a cash bail of $2,500 and release the defendant on his personal recognizance. Sullivan maintained that Downer stayed away from and have no contact with Hamilton during the pendency of the case, however. The altercation between Hamilton, a 33-year-old Reese trucking employee, and 40-year-old Downer, a sales seafood employee, took place on the South Beach Street sidewalk just outside of the Juice Bar ice cream shop on Broad Street. The scuffle, which was allegedly over a girl, was initiated by Hamilton, resulting in Downer acting in self-defense, according to Moriarty. This was straight self-defense, Moriarty said after his client was arraigned last week. He was attacked without warning, he was surprised, and he defended himself. According to the police report, Downer said he was delivering juice to the juice bar when Hamilton started punching him in the back of the head. Downer told police he did not know Hamilton by name, but they were from the same parish in Jamaica, and he had heard that Hamilton had, quote, issues with him, unquote. Downer turned around to see who had attacked him and was kicked before he pulled a pocket knife from his waistband and swung it towards Hamilton 2 or 3 times, after which Hamilton fled. A witness also told police that Downer went into the juice bar to find another knife in case Hamilton came back. He grabbed a 10 to 12-inch knife from the kitchen, but it was taken away by employees, according to the report. Downer stated that Hamilton then ran towards Stubby's on Broad Street to get help, but then ran back towards his trash truck near the end of South Beach Street, where he received aid from bystanders. Nantucket Police Detective Amanda Schrank said that was the first to arrive on the scene and tended to Hamilton before members of the fire department arrived and took over medical care. Hamilton had to be med-flighted off-island to be treated for his injuries. According to sources, he suffered a punctured lung. Another wound on his left arm and a 2.5-inch open laceration was likely to require surgery, would leave significant scarring, according to the police report. Continuing on from the front page, our next story is headlined, Airport Manager Warren Smith Terminated Without Cause. Preston Harriman appointed acting manager, by Dean Geddes. June 30th. Nantucket Memorial Airport Manager Warren Smith has been terminated without cause by the Airport Commission. Commission Chair Arthur Gasborough said Monday. Smith was no longer employed by the airport effective June the 24th, Gasborough said in an email to the Inquirer Mirror. We thank Mr. Smith for his service and wish him well in his future endeavors, Gasborough wrote. Preston Harriman, a longtime airport employee and assistant manager, has been appointed acting airport manager, Gasborough said. Gasborough later confirmed that Smith was, quote, terminated without cause by the Airport Commission, end quote. He said the matter had been posted for executive session for the Commission's past 2 meetings. The circumstances surrounding Mr. Smith's termination were not immediately clear on Monday. Gasborough did not say what prompted the decision, whether there was a public vote following executive session, or how long Harriman is expected to serve in the acting role. The other items are up to the Airport Commission at their next meeting, which will not include me, as the last day of my term is tomorrow, Gasborough wrote on Monday. Gasborough's term on the commission ends today. He did not seek reappointment this year. Scott Wilson was appointed to fill the position, with incumbent Tony Buscaron reappointed to the other open seat. Terminated without cause generally means an employee was let go without the employer citing misconduct, poor performance, or other specific reasons for dismissal. Smith and Harriman did not respond to requests for comment sent Monday morning. Town manager Libby Gibson said that for now, airport personnel matters are handled by the Airport Commission and deferred to them. Smith had been on the job for less than 16 months. He began work March 3rd of 2025 after the Airport Commission voted unanimously that January to offer him the position following a nationwide search. He came to Nantucket from Grand Canyon Airport in northern Arizona, a single-runway, state-owned airport used primarily for scenic flights and charter tours of Grand Canyon National Park. Since joining the airport in 2004, Harriman has held the positions of Operations Specialist, Operations Supervisor, Operations Superintendent, and Compliance Manager before being named Assistant Manager. He brings nearly 2 decades of airport operations, line service, and airport rescue and firefighting experience to his new administrative role. In addition to his career experience, Harriman is a licensed Part 107 drone pilot and holds an ACE operations certification from the American Association of Airport Executives. The leadership change comes as the airport enters its peak summer travel period, when private flights, commercial flights, and airport operations increase significantly. The Airport Commission is expected to take up questions about the acting manager's role and next steps for permanent leadership. Our next story is headlined, Planning Department Heads NP and EDC agree on new contract terms, by Kay Quigley. The Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission approved a new 3-year contract for Planning Director Leslie Snell on Monday, and extended Deputy Planning Director Megan Trudell's contract through June 30th of 2028. While neither Snell nor Trudell received a bump in their base salary, they will each receive payments equivalent to a 4% cost of living adjustment paid in 2 installments, half in July and the other half in January of 2027. Trudell will also receive the payment in lieu of a raise for the 2nd year of her contract, while Snell will only receive the payment of the 1st year of her new contract, which runs through June 30th of 2029. Snell will be eligible for salary increase in subsequent years, however, depending on her performance evaluated annually by the Planning Commission and whether other town employees receive a cost of living adjustment. Snell's gross earnings for 2025 totaled $194,000, according to the 2025 annual town report. Trudell's gross pay last year was $164,876. Both Snell and Trudell are currently at the upper end of the pay band for their positions, which prevented the NP and EDC from giving them a traditional raise at this time. Snell and Trudell's contracts were each discussed in executive session Monday evening before the Commission reconvened in open session to approve them unanimously. In a brief summary of the discussions after the executive session, commissioners noted that they had also discussed updating the Commission's Memorandum of Understanding with the town and updating the job description for the Planning Director position, at which point the approved contracts could be amended. The Commission also discussed ensuring an independent review of Snell's performance. Our next story is headlined, Land Bank's Long-Planned Lily Pond Restoration Goes Out to Bid, by Dean Geddes, June 24th. The Land Bank is putting a roughly $6.6 million restoration of Lily Pond Park out to bid, a project long in the making aimed at improving both public access at one of its most visible downtown parks and the wetland's ability to filter stormwater before it reaches the harbor. Nantucket Executive Director Rachel Freeman said that the bid is for the full project, with construction expected to begin in September and take about 18 months. The park will not be accessible during the winter months, she said, but the Land Bank is working with Horsley Witten, the environmental engineering consultant that designed the project, to reopen the park to the public next summer, even if the restoration is still a work in progress. I actually think it's a neat opportunity to provide education about this type of wetland restoration project and let people have a little bit of an inside view, Freeman said. They're going to be able to sort of peer under the hood of the process. The restoration plan has two major goals: improving Lily Pond's ability to filter stormwater before it reaches the harbor, and improved public access and the visitor experience in the park. We're putting in a loop boardwalk, which I think will be really popular, Freeman said. We're making the whole park accessible, which would be great. So you'll be able to get from the parking lot on North Liberty down onto a boardwalk around a loop. You'll have a far more accessible pathways, and it's a huge component of what we're doing. Today, visitors can walk into the Lily Pond Park from one entrance and out another, Freeman said. But there is no real loop within the park. The project is designed to change that, giving visitors more access to the entire park. There will be much more interaction with the habitat because of the constructed wetlands and the way the boardwalks are going to be looped through the wetlands, she said. It is an opportunity to sort of experience what a wetland is and a healthy wetland and how it functions. Neil Patterson, a longtime member of the Land Bank Commission, said once complete, people will likely notice the removal of invasive species, a redesigned and expanded boardwalk system, and a restored public park that also plays a major role in filtering stormwater runoff. The work, he said, will be a major undertaking. It will be a bit of like making an omelet, Patterson said, messy at first, but people will really enjoy the finished project. The restoration plan was developed by Horsley Witten in collaboration with the Land Bank. The project goals include better stormwater treatment, restoration, habitat restoration, improved public access, expanded circulation through the park, and responses to neighborhood concerns about flooding and invasive species. The Horsley Witten Group estimates that the total cost of revamping the 6.5-acre freshwater wetland and park between Lily, North Liberty, and Westchester Street at roughly $6.6 million. The invasive species work is also a major part of the restoration, although Freeman said the Land Bank is not simply removing everything that is non-native. Some large pockets of willow will remain because they provide valuable bird habitat. Patterson said that the federal government has awarded grant funding for the work and highlighted the project's potential water quality benefits. 70 to 80 acres of water from the surrounding area filter through that area and then into our harbor, Patterson said, pointing to the stormwater improvements as one of the major aspects of the project. The Land Bank has described Lily Pond as a popular downtown park and an important part of Nantucket's stormwater process. The low-lying wetland collects runoff from surrounding roads, roofs, and other surfaces, filtering the water before it ultimately makes its way toward Nantucket Harbor. But the wetland is not functioning as well as it could, according to the Land Bank, because of outdated stormwater infrastructure, sediment buildup, storm flooding, and invasive plants. A pre-bid site visit is scheduled for 11 a.m. July 7th, and bids are due electronically. And finally, we have the district court report with the headline, Island Woman Charged with Breaking and Entering After Eviction by Sarah Roberts, July 1st. Nantucket woman is facing charges of breaking and entering and trespassing stemming from a March landlord-tenant dispute. Victoria Ewing, 52, was arraigned in Nantucket District Court this week on March 11th charges of misdemeanor breaking and entering and trespassing. Not guilty pleas were entered on her behalf, and she was ordered to return to court August 31st for a pretrial hearing. According to the police report, Ewing changed the locks on a Marble Way residence March 11th, where she had lived until January before being evicted. The locks were changed after the eviction, according to the report. The landlord had gone to the property and realized his keys no longer worked with the locks and found no trespassing signs on the front and the back of the residence, according to the report. The report states that the locksmith who changed the locks after Ewing's eviction confirmed that the locks had been changed since he had worked on them. Police were able to contact Ewing and confirm that she went to the property following her eviction, changed the locks, and hung the signs on what she called her property, according to the report. In other district court news, Najee Nunez, 24, of 6 Forest Avenue, was arraigned on a June 26 charge of assault and battery on a family or household member. A not guilty plea was entered on his behalf, and he was ordered to return to court July 28th for a pretrial hearing. Romaine Powell, 30, of 3 Gooseberry Place, was arraigned on June 13th charges of assault on a family or household member, intimidating a witness, juror, police officer, or court official, and destruction of property worth less than $1,200 with malicious intent. Not guilty and not responsible pleas were entered on his behalf, and he was ordered to return to court July 21st for a pretrial hearing. Arrested Coville, 48, of 18 Amelia Drive, was arraigned on June 27th charges of operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol, negligent operation of a motor vehicle, and failure to stop or yield. Not guilty and not responsible pleas were entered on his behalf, and he was ordered to return to court July 28th for a pretrial hearing. Roberto A. Ramirez, 53, of 9 Square Rigger Road, was arraigned on June 27th charges of operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol, negligent operation of a motor vehicle, operating an unregistered motor vehicle, a marked lanes violation, and possession of an open container of alcohol in a motor vehicle. Not guilty and not responsible pleas were entered on his behalf, and he was ordered to return to court July 21st for a pretrial hearing. Matares G. Martinez, 35, of 14 Marianne Drive, was arraigned on June 28th charges of unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle and a motor vehicle lights violation. Not guilty and not responsible pleas were entered on his behalf. The unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle charge will be dismissed on the condition that he pays $100 in court costs. He was found not responsible for the lights violation. Alexandra Bankhart, 35, of 13 Fisher's Landing, was arraigned on February 1st charges of operating an uninsured motor vehicle, operating a motor vehicle with suspended registration, and operating a motor vehicle without an inspection sticker. Not guilty and not responsible pleas were entered on her behalf. The uninsured motor vehicle charge will be dismissed on the condition she pays $100 in court costs. She was found not responsible for the suspended registration and inspection sticker charges. Giovanni Gillian, 31, of Florida, will have June 5th, 2025 charges of larceny over $1,200 by a single scheme and receiving a lost credit card dismissed after being continued without a finding for 11 months. Luis Joseph Berea, 23, of Lawrence, will have an April 23rd charge of failure to stop for police dismissed on the condition he pays $100 in court costs. He was found not responsible for charges of operating an unregistered motor vehicle, speeding, a marked lanes violation, and negligent operation of a motor vehicle stemming from the same incident. Charges of operating an uninsured vehicle and a helmet violation stemming from the same incident were dismissed at the request of prosecutors. That's all I have time for. This is your reader, Chuck Gifford, saying goodbye, and thanks for listening, and happy 4th of July.